And then Adele will be like, yeah, I am a little creep. So I don't know. Every time I say David, by the way, it is the ew David.
Oh my God, ew David.
I am dazed and confused. After all, what's the point? I'm going to be dead soon. Hi, hello, how are you? We are back. We're gonna solve another mystery. I've been really enjoying making these. This will be my third one, officially, I think. I don't know if this is gonna be a monthly thing, but when I have a thriller that I wanna read, I'm gonna read them with you. The only problem I'm gonna have with making this a series is that I've read a lot of thrillers. As a child, I was literally raised on Agatha Christie. Miss Marple was my girl. So I fear that a lot of the really popular ones, I fear I've already read them, but please feel free to drop your suggestions down below in terms of what we want to read next. But one that kept coming up and one that is a mini series now, I think, on TV, I don't know where you would find it. I tried very hard to just not look into it, is Behind Her Eyes by Sarah Pinborough. I have genuinely only looked at the Google results and like the poster, briefly, the poster of the TV series. So truly, we're going in with nothing. And that's how I want to do it. So let's begin, shall we? I haven't read this author at all, I'm pretty sure. All right, Behind Her Eyes by Sarah Pinborough. It is sitting at a 3.79. It came out in 2017. It's 300 pages. I have stuff to do tonight, but let's see how much we can read, okay? The opening sentence for the Goodreads summary is just, why is everyone talking about the ending of Sarah Pinborough's Behind Her Eyes? I don't know. Okay, in we go. I did hear that this has a twist that people did not foresee. So people who are asking me to read His and Hers by Alice Feeney, first of all, I have never met an Alice Feeney novel that I've enjoyed. I've read 2 or 3, but I watched the Netflix show. Maybe I just like her stories better, like on a screen, because I didn't think it was that bad. And the twist did get me. Actually, I was like patting myself on the back thinking like, oh, haha, you solved it. And then I didn't. Were there hella plot holes to like make that twist not possible? Absolutely, but All right, here we go. Louise is a single mom, a secretary, stuck in a modern day rut. On a rare night out, she meets a man in a bar and sparks fly. Though he leaves after they kiss, she's thrilled she finally connected with someone. When Louise arrives at work on Monday, she meets her new boss, David, the man from the bar, the very married man from the bar, who says the kiss was a terrible mistake, but who still can't keep his eyes off Louise. Then, Louise bumps into Adele, who's new to town and in need of a friend, but she also just happens to be married to David. David and Adele look like the picture-perfect husband and wife, but then why is David so controlling? And why is Adele so scared of him? As Louise is drawn into David and Adele's orbit, she uncovers more puzzling questions than answers. The only thing that is crystal clear is that something in this marriage is very, very wrong. But Louise can't guess how wrong and how far a person might go to protect their marriage's secrets. All right, let me grab you the first bit of this book. Just by reading that, I think Louise is the crazy one. I always say that it's blame the man, it's the man's fault, but that seems too easy. But then if it were to be the woman, it just feels a little too Gone Girl rip-offy. I'm calling it's Louise. I haven't even opened the book yet. Okay, we're opening it. Pick up, baby. There we go. Okay. My version says it is 320 pages, now a Netflix original series. It starts off with a quote from Benjamin Franklin. So maybe he did it. That's my guess. He says, what does old Ben say? He says, 3 can keep a secret if 2 are dead. Is that a real quote? I feel like you could just slap Benjamin Franklin on any quote. Is that real, Sarah? What the hell? Okay. Yeah, 3 can keep a secret if 2 are dead. Maybe it's David's ex-wife. Maybe Adele killed David's previous wife. Maybe they... Stop. Okay, part 1. It says, then. Pinch myself and say, I am awake once an hour. Look at my hands. Count my fingers. Look at a clock or watch. Look away. Look back. Stay calm and focused. Think of a door. I'm going to read you the next. Then now we have chapter 2. Later. It was nearly light when it was finally done. A streaky gray wash across the canvas of sky. Dry leaves and mud clung to his jeans and his weak body ached as his sweat cooled in the damp, chill air. A thing had been done that could not be undone. A terrible, necessary act. An ending and a beginning, now knotted up forever. He expected the hues of the world to change to reflect that, but the earth and heavens remained the same muted shades, and there was no tremble of anger from the trees, no weeping whisper of wind, no siren wailed in the distance. The woods were just the woods. He let out a long breath, and it felt surprisingly good. Clean. A new dawn, a new day. There's a song lyric in there. He walked in silence towards the remains of the house in the distance, and he didn't look back. Okay, now we have now. We had then, we have later, and now we have now. And we are starting from Adele's POV. Hello. And Adele, just the first sentence, there's still mud under my fingernails when David finally comes home. I'm going to set myself up with a cup of tea. I'm going to get comfy on the couch. We're going to solve this. What do I think? Well, they definitely burned the house down, so there's that. No more from me until I have some evidence. Let's go. We've got my handy dandy notebook. We're 20 pages in. We're on chapter 6 now. Really? Did time fly? We're basically going back and forth between Adele and Louise. And I've got, well, we'll go into it. So first off, we start with Adele. Adele is, again, she has dirt under her fingernails, which I will come back to. And she seems very worried because her husband just came back home. He is drunk as a skunk. And everything she says is about how she's so scared of him. She had a few glasses of wine to calm her nerves, but she knows that he doesn't like her to drink. So she had to like wash her mouth after everything, whatever. It seems like they are having a fresh start from something. It's only like day 2. They've moved into this house. She had to sweep up all of the broken glass and things that were thrown around in somebody's fit of rage. And she's trying like so hard to be the perfect wife, and she just really wants this to work, okay? She says something about how she wonders if he would rather kill me than keep trying to make this work. And she also says, some part of me wants to kill him. And she keeps listing all of the things that she does for him, like I made beef stroganoff, and I work out and I take care of myself and I clean the house and I love you and I'm always there for you. She says, I try to be the perfect wife. Why can't he let the past go? Okay, but it doesn't matter because no matter what happens, she will always forgive him. She is like, I have chosen to love this man. I will always love this man. I will always forgive him. I can't let him go. So currently, logically, she seems like the crazy one, but I feel like this is too obvious. But who knows? We're only on the first chapter. Then we get Louise. Louise is hanging out with her friend Sophie. I don't know quite how old Adam is, but she has a little boy who is asleep. He's gonna go to school the next day. But she has her friend Sophie over for a little wine, a little weed, and they're just like giggling over this situation that happened. The fact that she went to a bar for like the first time in years, has flirted with and kissed a guy, and it happens to be her boss. To be completely fair, she obviously didn't know about the boss thing, and she said by the end of the night, she felt like he was probably in a relationship just because he kept looking really guilty. Overall, she's like, I didn't do anything wrong. Part of her feels bad about it, but she mainly feels bad about it because she's like still attracted to him, and even though she knows that he's married, so she's like, anyway, she knows that he is her boss because he came in for just a tour of the office. She works at like I think it's a psychiatrist's office, and he just came in to like meet everybody. She dipped. She saw him, immediately clocked who he was, and ducked into the toilet for 20 minutes. So she saw him, he didn't see her. He also brought his wife on the tour of the office with him, and she is apparently beautiful, elegant. She's got gorgeous olive skin in an Angelina Jolie way. Whatever that means. She is exceptionally slim and the opposite of me. Also, I will be using the photos of the characters from the miniseries, so even though the descriptions don't match from the book, but we'll get into that. So they have like a cute time, they're giggling, whatever. They talk about cheating because Sophie seems to have a lot of affairs as well, even though she's married, and she's like, oh, it's different. So I feel like we're going to be circling back to that for sure, especially with Adele being like, why can't he let the past go? But then we get into a dream. So apparently Louise has always had night terrors, like ever since she was young. And it was usually about like fighting for her life. But ever since she had Adam, her night terrors are always about trying to save Adam, always in like some big building, like a hospital or a warehouse or something, and she needs to go in and save him, and something keeps holding her back, and she just like watches her son die in her dreams all the time. So there's that. So she has one of those dreams that night, wakes up, realizes she's got a little bit of time left to nap before work. So she rolls over and tries not to think about how she still really likes her boss.
Oh my God, ew, David.
And then just to catch us up, what I just read is Adele's POV. And I've got some things for our That's Suspicious board because she just seems really, really obsessed with David. When he leaves for work, she apparently breathes a sigh of relief, okay? But she's really happy that her elderly neighbor, her new neighbor, was outside to see them be like a perfect couple, because that's very important to Adele, is that they look like a perfect couple. And then she just goes out to explore the new neighborhood. She goes for a walk. She goes to the grocery store. She really enjoys spending money because everything that she purchases, she's like, ooh, that is acceptably priced, and like, ooh, that's deliciously expensive. Like, she really focuses on buying high-end things. She ends up buying a bunch of things for lunch so that they can have an indoor picnic because, and I quote, he doesn't seem like he wants to go into the garden yet. So what happened in the garden? What was Adele burying? Okay. And she also mentions she's thinking about his office because she just went on a tour of it yesterday. And she's like, oh, I'm glad his office is appropriately big. And she keeps talking about how beauty is power and how she's just so happy that she's so beautiful because she doesn't really have to put in much effort for anything else for like people to like her. So she was like, oh, doctors that David's going to work with, they all seem to really like me, even though I didn't say anything, just because I'm gorgeous, blah, blah, blah. So she's very happy about that. But she mentions the one thing she didn't like about his office was that when she got there, she noticed the secretary. And I think she said like the person sitting at that desk, like the stereotype of the boss and the secretary. So she's like, yeah, that girl just ran off and didn't say hi, which was really annoying. But she is apparently, what did she say? Blonde and attractive, if you like that sort of thing. Okay, but again, I'm going to be using our actress for Louise as the marker, but so there we go. Updates. Our man is Scottish. Okay, so Louise, time for work. She walks in. Everyone remarks about how she looks really lovely today. Even apparently her son was like, why are you looking so good, Mom? She put effort in. God help her. She put effort in to look good on her first day of work with her new boss. But of course, nothing goes to plan. She's early, he's in a meeting. It's like Friday, and every Friday they get bacon sandwiches, and she spills ketchup all down her silk shirt, and then she tries to wash it and it becomes see-through, and like, oh, ugh. Anyway, as she's getting his office ready for the day, because she is his direct secretary, she looks at his desk. She like prints out a bunch of stuff for him and is like setting up his stuff, whatever. She can't help but notice the photos of his wife. He has 2 photos of her just standing alone. And then he has one of the both of them like looking just so young and in love. And he's apparently looking at her like she's the center of the world and blah, blah, blah. As she's looking at this, a Scottish accent pops up behind her. They have the awkward conversation. He suddenly realizes, at first he's just like, did you just show up in my office? And she's like, no, I really am your secretary. Like, I'm not lying. Apparently she only works 3 days a week though. She's there Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays. They have the awkward conversation and they basically decide that, okay, we can get past this. We are friends. We are colleagues. Let's work together. Okay, he's very apologetic, very ashamed, etc. Okay, but he asks for her help because he's new to the area and he wants the hospital or the clinic that he's now working at to do some like volunteer outreach stuff for the community, like specifically focusing on addiction. I think that's what the clinic is for, is people struggling with drug and alcohol addiction. So he wants to take that out to the streets as well in a kind of volunteer capacity. So he's like, you're a local. Why don't you tell me about the community? Like, he pulls up a map and he's like, could you just show me what areas, like if we were to canvass the area and look for people who needed a checkup or whatever, like where would you think to go? So they end up talking for like an hour, having this meeting, right? And I want to point this out, okay? She says, I'm surprised by how much I actually know about where I live. And I'm surprised by how much of my life comes out while I talk him through it. By the time he looks up at the clock and stops me, not only does he know that I'm divorced, he knows I have Adam, where he goes to school, that my friend Sophie lives on one of the mansion blocks around the corner. That's suspicious. She just gave him a ton of personal information about herself. But then also what is suspicious is he looks at the clock and looks really nervous. He's like, I gotta make a phone call. And Adele had mentioned this also, that they have like scheduled phone calls every day, so he apparently is late for his 11:30 phone call with her, okay? But overall, it seems like they are gonna be okay in the office, all right? Then we get a flashback to the then, and I had already written down that like those very short, weird sentences felt like it was somebody who was either like, I thought, being tortured or like kind of losing their mind, right? Turns out whenever the then was, Adele was sent by, quote, her doctors, her dead parents' lawyers, and David to this like remote retreat. Her parents died, and we learned that they died in a fire. I'm sure we'll get more information about that. But she has not been sleeping. Like, she's not only grieving her parents, but she has also not slept for a very long time because when the accident happened, she was asleep and didn't help them. So yeah, she apparently just like drinks a lot of caffeine and Red Bull and takes pills and stuff to never sleep, which probably isn't good. She also randomly, she doesn't want to like participate in anything. So she's kind of wandering around the retreat house, and she makes a friend with this teenager who has like a drug problem or something, and they bond, and he kind of gives her hints of like how to look like she's getting better so that they stop asking her stuff. Apparently she uses the art room, the like art therapy room, to paint, and she's always painting fire. And he's like, why don't you paint water? Like, why don't you look like you're processing things, okay? And so they decide to help each other because he has night terrors, and she apparently had them as a child too. Everybody has night terrors in this book, I guess. But she's like, listen, I can help you with your sleep issues if you help me with my, like, to look like I'm sane. But then she mentions that she does have some kind of secret that they would lock her up forever if she told them. Then we get back to present day. We're still in Adele's POV, and we learn that David ran into the fire to save Adele. So apparently she was also in the house, which is what I suspected. And apparently it wasn't warm. She talked about like love, like a home should be filled with love and all of this stuff. It should be like filled with the warmth of a loving family. Apparently she didn't grow up with that. Okay. But yeah, he ran into the fire to save her. He is her hero. She also mentions that David is very much in control of the marriage. She says on one hand, he takes care of her, but on the other, he kind of smothers her. And she thinks that honestly, she's a little bit more clever than he is when it comes to some things, but like, let him take the wheel, you know? But she does say that they smother each other in their own ways, because she's so obsessed with being the perfect wife. She's like always up and ready to have breakfast, and everything is in its place. Speaking of breakfast, today she makes coffee and croissants. It's apparently a beautiful day. Why don't we go sit out in the garden, David? And David immediately is like, and we find out why he doesn't want to go sit in the garden, because did I not call it? What was she burying in the backyard? Apparently a cat that died. I think she killed it, but we'll get to that. Apparently, like, when they had this fight or fit of rage or whatever, remember there was like broken glass that she had to clean up. He goes out, gets drunk. I'm assuming it's the same day that he meets Louise, right? Leaving her to take care of the cat in burying it in the garden. So there's that. There's a dead cat in the flower bush. But then after breakfast, he's like, by the way, like, come to my study. I have some things to give you and I want to chat with you or whatever. He gives her some anxiety pills and she's like, ugh, always more pills, and she has no intention of taking them. But yeah, he's basically like, hey, like, I think these will help with your anxiety. Here's this. Also, here's a credit card and a phone, because she hadn't had one for a while. Again, we don't know when she was in rehab. Like, maybe they took it because she was apparently she was like in a therapy home for a while, and then she got moved to like a bigger retreat kind of place. So I don't know how long she's been without like autonomy, I guess. But he's basically like, it's about time you've had one again, and this is like their fresh start, remember? So yeah, now she has a credit card and a phone. Hello. And then he like explains his whole plan of wanting to do the outreach work of all this volunteering. And she's sort of like, actually, that sounds really great. That's lovely. And David seems really surprised by this because she apparently doesn't like him mixing with lower society. Like, she wants him to work in like specific areas dealing with specific people because it looks good for them. Like, she doesn't want him to be working with people who can't afford to go to this fancy hospital, you know? And then she says, "You're a good man, David," I say, even though it's hard and feels like a lie. "You really are." The atmosphere stills a little then, a momentary heaviness in the room, and we both feel the past cement itself between us once more. Okay. Hold on. Here we go. Did David set the fire that killed Adele's parents because Adele asked him to, because she told him all of these stories about her horrible childhood and how she wanted to kill her parents? And I think maybe her parents were like bankrupt or something, and so she would have lost her standing in society, and she didn't want that. So she like tricked David into saving her. What does Louise have to do with any of this? I don't know. Is Adam going to be like kidnapped or in trouble or something like that? Also probably yes. Cool. Ah, darn it. I should have been recording because I guessed something and then it was confirmed. So far, like, everything that I've been thinking has been like, ooh, that's suspicious. That's going to be a clue for like the later twist. We then get confirmation in the next chapter, which is quite interesting. Like, we'll see something from Louise's point of view and I'll be like, ooh, Adele, you little creep. And then Adele will be like, yeah, I am a little creep. So I don't know. Okay, here. Let me update you, okay? Louise, some interesting things. Remember how I said everybody seems to have night terrors? And specifically that guy that Adele befriended in the retreat. He has night terrors, but he also sleepwalks. And apparently so does Louise. Louise has night terrors and she sleepwalks. Anyway, she had this like big plan to have like a fun girly weekend to herself because her ex-husband has her son on the weekends. Turns out she just like felt bad for herself, thought about David, and sleptwalked. So that's weird. When her ex-husband drops Adam off, Adam is 6, by the way. We get confirmation. Adam is like, "See you next week, Dad." And Louise is like, "What do you mean? Like, I have him on the weekdays." Turns out Ian has a new wife or girlfriend or whatever, who is pregnant. Her name is Lisa. They have decided to rent a house in the south of France for a week, or for a month, so that like Adam can kind of get to know Lisa before the baby comes, so that they can be a proper family. You know, he doesn't feel replaced, all that stuff, yada, yada, yada. This throws Louise for a loop because she's already feeling like all of her friends are married. She feels very left behind. She's like a part-time secretary, single mom, trying her best, but like the one guy that she has a crush on for like the past 5 years is a married man and his wife is hot, okay? She feels like she was her ex-husband's practice wife. And now he's going to go do the real thing with this Lisa. Anyway, Monday morning rolls around. She's dropping Adam off at school, feeling shitty, walking home when she like collides with this woman and knocks her to the ground. Who is it? It's Adele. And for me, I'm like, oh, she definitely planned this because she saw the map when she was talking to David about like the volunteering outreach thing. Okay, I promise you that was my thought. They decide to go get coffee because Adele is like, "Oh, I didn't see you. I'd love to talk to you. Like, I'm brand new. All of the people I know from work, like through David's work, are like older people. So yeah, let's go get a coffee." Louise feels like a quote, solid, clumsy lump of lard next to the drop dead, stunning, gorgeous Adele. She's a vision in pastel, and even her name is exotic. Anyway, they share life stories. Apparently, Adele like doesn't have friends. She said that she had a best friend once, but and then she looks a little sad and she's like, life. Who is that? Oh, this just came to me. The best friend, I'm going to say, is either David or Rob, who is her little teenager friend from therapy. And I think something happened to him. I'm starting to go back and assume trust no man. I'm going to go ahead and put David back on my suspect list because trust no man. Okay. Anyway, Adele requests that Louise not tell David about them meeting. And she's kind of like, okay, that's weird, but sure. And Louise is excited about this development because maybe now that I know her, I won't find her husband so hot. Then we get back into Adele's POV. She's stoked. This is why I still think that Adele is still on my list of just being weird because she's weird. She talks about how she has fireworks going off inside of her because she has a new secret. She has Louise. She's so focused on David, quote, stopping his dark moods, stopping his drinking, making him love her, those kind of things, that now she has Louise. And Louise is like this shiny new friend. And she's like she just can't stop thinking about her. She's like, we're going to go to the gym. I'm going to help her lose that weight that she needs to lose. I'm going to make her stop smoking because then David will know that I'm hanging out with a smoker and he doesn't like it when I make new friends and blah, 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 blah. Really weird. And then she confirms what I thought. She says, quote, it was so easy to meet her thanks to the map David brought home. Two strangers colliding. She didn't suspect a thing. So do I think that Adele is creepy AF? Yes. But then we get a flashback again to then, okay? And we learn some more things about their relationship. So she's still in the rehab area, okay? She gets a phone call from David, who's very good at calling, even though he's in the hospital for the burns on his arm. Turns out he is 22. She is 17.
Oh my God, ew, David.
Her parents do not like that age gap. Her parents do not like that he is from quote unquote bad stock. His father is like a bankrupt farmer with a drinking problem. And her parents are like, cannot be together kind of thing. So immediately I was like, oh yeah, that backs up my prediction that Adele killed her parents. And also, when her parents died, she inherited everything. So now he doesn't have to worry. He's going to be a doctor. He doesn't have to worry about student loans. They're going to just live off of her money. So I'm sort of like, was it David or was it Adele that killed her parents? You know? And she has known him since she was 8 years old because they would like play together, or she would play and like watch him work the farm. But yeah, she's been kind of obsessed with him for a really long time. She has been really enjoying her time at the retreat with Rob, the other teenager. And when she like described him as a teen, I thought it was because she was older. They're the same age. They are both 17. David and Adele just got engaged. Okay. So yeah, she mentions Rob and like, oh, you'll really like him. Like he's really helping me feel at home here, blah, 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 blah. I think Rob is going to die. Okay, cool. Ooh, okay, gang. So this book is broken into 3 parts and I just finished part 1. We are literally a third of the way through. We're 100 pages in, okay? So much has happened. Where do I begin? Wow, my handwriting is really bad. Okay, yeah, I know where we are. First, really quickly, this is where things start to move quite fast, so I'm gonna just be jumping from chapter to chapter. Adele brings us down to the basement where there's just a lot of their old shit. Like they're having this new start, right? So they just kind of put all of their old stuff in the basement. She has hidden a notebook deep in one of those boxes so that David couldn't find it. It's a notebook from her time in rehab. She calls it the Tricks of the Trade, and it's essentially the very first chapter that we got, the one that's like pinch yourself and tell yourself you're awake and blah blah blah. This is the notebook that she gave to Rob, her friend in rehab, to like help him with his night terrors and his sleepwalking, because remember, she had night terrors and sleepwalking issues as well when she was a kid. So she has like all these coping mechanisms and she wrote them in a notebook, handed it to Rob. Okay, why does she have it now? We don't know. Also, the back of the page is ripped out because there are secrets in there. And then it just gets more suspicious in terms of, honestly, both of them are creepy, Adele and David. But she is redecorating this new house that they have moved into. When he comes home from work, she's like, oh, hey, like I spent the day picking out paints. Why don't you come? I've swabbed a couple of them. I've done a couple like paint swatches on the wall. Why don't you come tell me which one you like more? What do you think? I can't decide between summer leaf green or forest haze. Neither of them is the real name of the paint, but he'll never know. I'm not even sure he hears me anyway. He's staring at the strips that shine in the dying sunlight. He can see everything in them that I saw. Why these colors, he asks. His voice is flat, level, dead. He turns to look at me, and I see it all in his cold eyes. Everything that sits between us. So he doesn't like green walls, okay? Crazy, crazy time, clown time. Is David Rob? No, he's not. And then the next day, his bad mood, he brings that shit to work. Louise asks him something like, do you need me to get you a coffee? And he just like, he's like, God, why did you knock? And she's like, I did. And he's just really like a live wire, okay? But then he works with a patient. Like one of the two parents bring in their son who is struggling with drugs. And after that, he seems okay again. And like, he seems like he's really good with the patients. He went overtime with their appointment, but he was like, don't charge them for it. Like, it was my fault that we went over kind of thing. And then he apologizes. He's like, yeah, I'm really sorry. I should not have treated you that way. And Louise is like, yeah, you shouldn't have. And there's that. Okay. Then Adele texts Louise. And Louise, after they had coffee, gave her number, but was sort of like, yeah, Adele is way too cool for me. She's not going to want to hang out with me. That's probably the last time I've seen her. So it's interesting when Adele texts her and is like, hello, listen, I've got this extra like free coupon to use the gym. They've got a sauna and a pool. I love a gym buddy. Why don't we go there? I'll pick you up. Louise is quite embarrassed by her apartment. So she's like, no. Like, I'll meet you there. And Adele is like, no, give me your address. They go to the gym. They hang out. They have fun together. They connect really well. When Adele picked Louise up, she demanded a tour of the whole house. So she like cataloged everything in Louise's apartment. Okay. She says that she likes Louise because she's strong and warm and funny and can be easily led. Okay, basically Louise says yes to everything that Adele suggests, all right? And this is when Louise starts to suspect there's something wrong in the marriage because Adele, while they were at the gym, missed a phone call and she's kind of freaked out about it. And Louise is like, your husband schedules your phone calls and tracks where you are and picks out what pills you have to take. And like, I don't know about this. And Adele is like, oh no, you don't understand. Like, he just loves me. And Louise is like, I don't know about that. Okay. And then Adele gives Louise the notebook that she was fishing around for in the basement because Louise had also mentioned in passing that she had night terrors, but apparently Adele and Louise are different because they both remember their night terrors. Apparently you're not supposed to remember if you have like a quote unquote proper night terror, you aren't supposed to remember them, but my freshman year roommate remembered hers and boy, howdy, those were night terrors. Like, you cannot tell me those weren't night terrors. I was a victim of her having night terrors in our tiny dorm room, okay? I think people remember them, but correct me if I'm wrong. Anyway, so she's really excited that they share a cute, weird thing. She's like, yeah, I've had night terrors when I was a kid. David even bought me a book to like teach me about dreaming. And I've learned that like you need to lucid dream. You need to control your dreams, and that's how you get a handle on them, and that's how you can stop them from being night terrors. Like, you can unfreeze yourself, basically. So she hands her the notebook, and Louise is like, is this yours? I flip through it. There are pages of scrawled writing, the neatness obviously lost after the first page. And then towards the back of the book, sheets of paper have been torn out. It's not exactly well loved. No, Adele says. It belonged to someone I used to know, but it's a part of me. I was there when he learned how to do it. So yeah, she did give this to Rob, okay? And then we start getting full names, and whenever people start mentioning full names, I feel like I need to write them down, so we're gonna have them here. Rob, his name is Robert Dominique Hoyle, okay? And then we have Adele Rutherford Campbell. I feel like those have got to be mentioned for some reason, okay? Louise gets back home from the gym with Adele. She has taken a sick day. I forget why. It was something to do with like, I don't remember. Anyway, she calls in sick. Adele pressures her to do it. And she's like, yeah, no, you know what? I do deserve a holiday. Calls in sick. She starts reading the notebook, and the first page is written by Adele, like the steps you can take to lucid dream. And then the rest is kind of like a diary written by Rob. And Rob is very much like, I am not sexually attracted to Adele at all, but like, thank God she's here. Everybody else fucking sucks. She's beautiful and lovely and so nice. Okay. It just occurred to me that maybe Adele wrote that to like give it to David as proof that they weren't romantically involved. Anyway, we'll put a pin in that. But regardless, we don't get to read much more because there's a knock at the door at Louise's apartment, and it's David.
Oh my God, ew, David.
And Louise is like, how the fuck did you find my apartment? And he's like, well, your address is on file. I figured you wouldn't pick up the phone if I called because of how badly I treated you yesterday. I just wanted to come and like see if you were okay. You said it was a sick day, but I didn't know if it was like a mental health day because I was so mean to you yesterday, blah, 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 blah. They have sex. He's a little drunk. She's been drinking wine all fucking day. And yeah, they exchange like all of 5 words and then they are sleeping together. And then both of them are immediately like, okay, bye. Like David is like, I should go home. And Louise is like, yeah, you should. She feels really guilty because she likes Adele, but she also is attracted to David, I guess. And he's trying to explain like, I'm not happy at home, but it's complicated. And Louise is like, you should separate if you're unhappy. And he's like, no, it's not that. Like he said, just complicated. And Louise says, and I quote, people cheat all the time. The reasons are usually selfish and base. It's the excuses we make that are complicated. And then for our final chapter before we go into part 2, Adele's POV. She has purchased Louise a e-cigarette because, again, she doesn't want to smell like cigarettes so that David knows that she's hanging out with her. So she texts her and is like, hello, I brought you a gift. I know you're like really sad because your boy just left for a month, right? Like now he's gone. Adam is gone in France. Do you want to hit the gym again Monday? Like would love to see you, blah, blah, blah. And then let me just read you the ending, okay? I don't mention the fight I had with David last night or how he stormed out or how I pretended to be asleep when he finally crept in and went to the spare room. I don't tell her how in the middle of the night he came into my room, stood over me, silently staring at me, and I lay there with my eyes squeezed shut. I could feel all his hate and anger radiating at me from his tense, clenched body. I could barely breathe until he left. I don't tell her that I didn't even get up to see him off to work, but instead lay crying into my pillow and trying not to throw up. I don't tell her any of these things because, angry as I am, I don't want her to feel any worse than she probably already does. I don't want to lose my new friend, even if she's betrayed me, and I'm filled with rage and envy of her. So she somehow knows that they slept together, and she orchestrated it. She says, this comes as a surprise. I hadn't expected their relationship to escalate so quickly. I'd forced the argument that night. It hadn't been difficult. We already had so much simmering under the surface. The forest green bedroom walls, the cat, the thing that happened before we moved, and always, always the secret in our past that binds us too tightly. I thought he'd go out and get drunk somewhere. I hadn't expected him to go from the bar to Louise's door. Not yet, not that night. So she also, by the way, she knows that Louise is going to switch from a cigarette to an e-cigarette because she's a people pleaser, a quote, big fat people pleaser. But in the same breath, Adele is like, but I don't want to lose my best friend. Okay. So yeah, she wants to use Louise to make David happy. I don't know, man. I don't know, but she knows about this. The plan is working, whatever the hell that means. She said before David got in the shower that night, she smelled some lingering scent of Louise from across the hallway. Her guilt and longing. I feel sick all over again. Okay. Hey there, we're about to start part 2. It's a new day. As you can tell, it's the next day. But I want to, before we dive in, conspiracy theory time. When David is like standing over Adele, right? I think that he also sleepwalks. I think it's all gonna come back to sleepwalking. The title of this book is Behind Her Eyes. I think it has to do with dreams and sleepwalking somehow. Here's my big conspiracy that I have no evidence for. I think Louise, no, this doesn't even make sense. I'm gonna say it, but I know it's wrong. Louise is Rob's sister, and she's getting revenge for David killing Rob. Or did Adele kill? No, you know what? Never mind. I don't even have like a good guess. I still want to find a way to blame David, especially because the way that this is written, it's making me assume, like, all of my evidence is showing me that Adele is guilty, but I never trust that. So I think that somehow it's going to be David. Watch it be Lisa or something. I have nothing to go off of. I'm pointing the finger at David just because trust no man, as usual. Let's begin. I haven't even flipped to the first page of part 2. Let's get back to part 2. Louise, POV. Oh my God. David's back. They're sleeping together. They're having a conversation, and she can't believe that she's lying in his arms. This is the first time he stayed and talked to me rather than rushing away. Despite having vowed that this would never happen again, this is the 3rd time in 10 days he's turned up at my flat. Every time I tell him to go home, we can't keep doing this, and then she lets him in. She also says, I'm already a bit in love with Adele in a strange way. She's so beautiful and tragic and fascinating and kind to me. And then there's David, a dark mystery. He's gentle, passionate in bed, never talks about his marriage, which I know is toxic on some level. I should give up on one of them, but I can't bring myself to. I feel like I'm woven around both of them. They're woven into me. The more I fall for David, the more fascinated I become with Adele. It's a vicious cycle. We've got the notebook. We've got a full day ahead of us. Let's go. Hey, so I think something's gonna happen. I'm about to have an epiphany, so I want to read with you, but let me catch you up on where we are. I need to mention a character that has been mentioned before, but only briefly. I feel like he's going to be more important in the rest of the book. So his name is Anthony Hawkins, and if you remember the day that David was really pissed at the office and he was kind of mean to Louise, and then he had a patient come in, he was really nice to the patient, and then like afterwards he seemed like he had gotten over his bad mood, right? That patient's name is Anthony Hawkins. His parents brought him in because he has a heroin addiction, and he is now calling the office nonstop. He is like consistently, I need to talk to David. Not Dr. Martin, David. Does David have my phone number? Can David call me? And he comes in like 3 or 4 times a week to talk to David, and even like David will call him, hang up, and then Anthony will call back to talk to Louise to be like, can you remind David to call me? So David is a little bit like, hey, so he has a history of obsession with people. It's just like he has a addictive personality, and so like maybe him coming off of heroin, now he's like replaced heroin with me. So he's telling Louise like, listen, I don't think he's dangerous, but just like if he calls, just immediately forward him to me. Like, don't talk to him. Okay, let's see. Louise, doing great. She's been dieting. She's been going to the gym. She's been drinking less wine. Yeah, she's losing weight, and she's kind of becoming a little bit obsessed about her diet, but that's another thing. Just very briefly, it was mentioned just like one sentence, but when she was talking to David after one of their little trysts, she asked him why he became a psychiatrist, and he mentioned Adele, but not my wife. He was talking about like this little girl that, ooh, another epiphany. Anyway, he was talking about like the little girl that lived next door, basically explaining Adele's life and how like, oh, I knew this girl that had really bad nightmares and she was kind of obsessed with me. She was like the rich girl, I was the farmer, whatever. And he like bought her a book about dreaming, and that was the first time he ever felt like, wow, I can help someone who's having problems in their brain. And he said something along the lines of like, it was like taking a scalpel to their brain. So I don't know, that just, is he brainwashing her? I don't know. Anyway, just put that aside. My little like epiphany was like, what if Adele isn't Adele? But I don't think that's true. What if like Adele died in the fire and I love a mixed up identity. So I'm always hoping for that, but I don't think that's the case. Anyway, next up we have Adele. Nothing really going on with her, but she does mention she gets a letter in the mail from like, I assume her lawyers or like the company that is now managing the estate, because she inherited everything from her family. She still technically owns the estate that like half of it burnt down. They obviously don't live there. She calls it Sleeping Beauty's castle, which I think is quite interesting because like she has so many issues with her sleep, right? And she has this prince that comes and saves her. But anyway, But she says like her lawyers are always telling them that they should sell the estate because it's just kind of like a lot of money to upkeep it. But she says, quote, "We could never sell the estate." But she thinks about it sometimes. She gets almost excited about the possibility of our secret being out in the open. So I was thinking the secret is just that like they set the fire and killed the parents, but what if there's something else in that house? You know? Other than that, we just have Louise calling Sophie, and Sophie is like, "Ew, this is really gross. Like, ditch them both, please. You're freaking me out." So Sophie decides to get drunk and read more of that notebook that Adele gave her, which is like Rob's diary. And Rob, that's what I wanted to check before I did anything. Okay, I'm on page 117. Hold on, everybody. Okay. Here we go. We had another flashback to then, and it's Adele talking to Rob. Rob also calls her Sleeping Beauty once again, which is interesting. But he rarely talks about his family, mainly because he doesn't want to talk about family when Adele is grieving the loss of hers. But he does mention, he says, "As for family, well, I mainly live with my sister, Ailsa, Ailsa, Ailsa? Anyway, she's 30. And he says, "Yeah, I was an afterthought." So she's what, 13 years older than him? Anyway, so keep that in mind. He said sister. Rob lives with his sister. Okay, now I'm going back. His journal, and it says, he is describing one of his night terrors. It starts the same as usual. "I'm running and they're all coming after me. The dealers from the estate, my long gone waste of space mother, Elsa, the boy that beat me up in the alley that time for no reason, blah, 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 blah." So he said that Elsa was his sister. Is it his mom? And also long gone, so she's dead, so he doesn't live with her. Do you see why I wanted to record? Let me see. Oh, wait. Punctuation. Okay, I'm sorry. Damn it. He's running from, number 1, the dealers from my estate. Number 2, my long gone waste of space mother. Number 3, Elsa. Number 4, the boy that beat me up. The commas messed me up because now he says, "I've got marks in my arms where my mom and Elsa have caught and bitten me." Damn it. Okay, they're 2 different people. Shucks. Okay, so no big epiphany moment. Sorry.
So bad.
But he basically is having a night terror. He remembers the steps that Adele taught him, and he is able to gain control over his night terror. It goes away, and then instead he has a dream about the beach and him and Adele walking on the beach, and it's lovely. And he keeps mentioning like how David is so controlling and how he like really wants to like separate Adele from him, and how he can he's really good at getting people to talk. I do more listening than talking in the sessions now. Everybody wants to talk about themselves. Maybe I should get a job here at the therapy place. What if Rob is David? I just really want somebody to assume somebody else's identity. Can you tell? Anyway, okay, that's the update. Okay, I've still got no leads. I've still got no ideas, guys. This is actually really good. I don't necessarily enjoy the story or the writing style, but I enjoy the puzzle of it all, so I'll give her that. So where I left you, we have Adele's POV, and she has just bought a ton of stuff from like infomercials, like TV stuff. And she apparently paid extra to have it delivered at a very specific window so that David was home to see it. And she spent like thousands of pounds on getting like a brand new high-end coffee maker and a treadmill and like all this crazy stuff. David's pissed. David is like, "I thought we were having a fresh start." He cuts up her credit card and is like, "We're gonna return all of this, but you can keep the treadmill if you want." And Adele is like, "No, you can send that back." Then he locks her in the house because he has to go do his like volunteer work. So he's leaving the house. He's like, "Listen, I'm going to be gone for 2 hours. I don't want to be distracted." It's assumed like thinking about you leaving the house. "So I'm going to lock you in." And he takes her keys and locks the door.
Oh my God, ew, David.
And we learned that something happened last night and Adele has a face bruise. Okay, but at the end of her last POV, she mentioned that she was gonna go somewhere. She has a plan, and it's about time that she goes to the place that she needed to go, or something like that. So I'm assuming the bruise is not from David. The bruise is from wherever the hell that she went. She's also like, part of her plan is to push him closer and closer to Louise, whatever that means. If this is going to be another, like, she's trying to find a replacement, but that's not. Anyway, okay. Ugh, I'm getting ahead of myself. And then she gets a text from Louise saying, I did it. And we don't know what that means. She also mentions how last night's events were an abysmal failure. So where I'm assuming wherever she went, she wasn't supposed to get a bruise on her face, right? And then, hold on, took a picture. Then they settle down for dinner, okay? He has come back from his volunteer work. She's been locked in the house. She just like had a bath, you know, whatever. So finally, David is like, what's going on, Adele? David says, what happened before we moved, that was all your fault, Adele said. You know it was. You said it was. I said it to pacify you, he said. I didn't mean it. You wanted a fresh start, and I've tried to give you one. And then she just basically says, you can never leave me, David, I say. It's good to say his name out loud. You know that. It's a threat. It's always been a threat. And there it is, the past, sitting between us alongside my untouched roast and creamed leeks and glazed carrots and 3 types of potatoes. And I know that, despite everything, I'm doing the right thing to save my marriage. He doesn't look at me as he walks towards the door. And he also just keeps asking, like, why the hell did you paint the bedroom and the hallway that color? And he starts sleeping in the spare bedroom. And she's like, I'll repaint the bedroom, I say, to soften my words, if you come back to it. Like, she wants him to come back to the bedroom, but he can't because it's green, whatever that means. Okay. Then David walks off. He's like, I'm going to go take a shower, you crazy woman. When there's a knock at the door, and it's Anthony, his patient, remember? And he's very much like, I need to talk to David. Where's David? Every time I say David, by the way, it is the ew, David. Oh my God, ew, David. Then it becomes very Gone Girl because she realizes who he is, and Adele is like, ooh, I can use this bruise on my face. So she starts to act really scared. She's like, I can't talk to you. He can't come to the door. Like, she looks scared and abused. And he is very much like, are you okay? Do you need help? And she's like, I can't talk to you. And she slams the door. Louise is going through it because Adele hasn't texted her in like 2 days. David has been distant at work, or like just acting like a normal boss instead of like the boss that she's having an affair with. So she is kind of losing her mind, right? It turns out the I did it text was because Louise finally controlled her dreams. She finally figured out how to do the lucid dreaming that Rob did, remember? And so on Wednesday, she finally gets to see Adele. She's going to tell her about the dream, and she sees the remnants of the bruise, and she immediately spirals. She also sees the boxes of things that are being returned, including the treadmill. And like, this is just how she spirals. She's like, was it meant to be a nice gift? Was it a more sinister motive? Was David trying to chain her to the house further? If she wasn't going to the gym, there was one less reason to go out and meet new people. Maybe that's what caused the fight. Did she try to assert herself and then he punched her? Etc., etc., etc. Okay, she's very convinced that David hit her, and Adele is leaning into that. She also mentions, for the first time, I'm the one who's glowing, not her. She can't help but notice that like Adele, her hair isn't looking quite as good. She just looks stressed. Okay. But also in Adele's POV, even though she's like, I love Louise, she's always calling her like fat and ugly. She's like, ugh, David is screwing his fat secretary again. And it's like, that's Louise. Anyway. They finally get to talking about Louise's triumph over her dreams. Okay. And she mentions that the notebook really helped her, like reading Rob's experiences is what kind of helped her make that jump to controlling her dream. And she's like, by the way, like, is this too personal to read? Like, Rob is writing about you, and I just don't want to cross any boundaries. And Adele is like, no. Like, honestly, I should have thrown it out a long time ago. She says, we don't like to think about that time. Okay. And Louise is like, all right, do you still see Rob? Like, where's Rob? And apparently there's like a flicker of sadness on Adele's beautiful face. And she says, no, I don't see him. David didn't really like him. I don't know where he is now. Wow, we have a 50% update. I am dazed and confused. Where do I start? Adele's POV. She's on the phone with Dr. Sykes, who is her husband's partner, like the other doctor at the clinic. Apparently, Anthony told his parents, who then called the doctor's office, about the bruise, and Dr. Sykes had to check if she was okay. And she's like, oh, of course. course. David, of all people, would never hit women, blah, 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 blah. But also in between this time, Anthony has come back more than once to talk to Adele. She's like kind of feeding into his fears. And she tells Dr. Sykes like, oh, you know what? Maybe Anthony is just acting out. She says, maybe he's just feeling rejected by my husband and wanted to punish him. And in her head, she says, I know how that feels. Anthony and I have that in common. Then she says something a little bit weird. She's like, you know what? I could lie. I could say that David hit me, but why would I do that? Why would I ruin him? Yes, we have wealth, but David has always needed more than that. And I can't take his career from him. Of all things, that would destroy him. Okay, so that just stood out. But then when she gets off of the phone with the doctor, the doorbell rings and she knows it's Anthony. And she says, everything is going so well. That same day, David goes to Louise's apartment after he's been ignoring her and she has seen the bruise on Adele, remember? So they actually get into a fight and she's like, why don't you, like, am I not important enough for you to talk to me about these things? Like, you never talk about your wife, blah, 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 blah. And he says, you think you're not important? You're the only good thing I have. And she's like, well, why aren't you getting a divorce? Like, you're clearly so unhappy. And he says something along the lines of, I have to find a way to get rid of her safely. Okay. But anyway, later that night, she is lucid dreaming again. She is, of course, dreaming of a life with her son and David, and it's all happy. When she notices a second door, it's glowing, it has no handle, and she can't get to it. It eventually disappears, and she's left feeling very confused. So when she wakes up the next day, she goes to work, and she starts reading Rob's notebook, thinking like, oh, maybe he experienced the same thing, maybe he can help me, right? What she learns from Rob's latest journal entry is that Adele signed all of her money and control over to David because she has been like having meetings with lawyers and Rob has been really interested in that. And so she finally tells him that's what happened. But she says that she only signed it temporarily. So he will give her money, like the control of the estate back. But Rob is like, I don't think so. He's really suspicious. He even writes it in the notebook of like, it's really weird that David was driving by the house when it caught fire at 2 a.m. and saved her. Like, he is immediately not on board with David. But speaking of David, her notebook reading gets interrupted because she's reading it at work. David comes in, calls her into the office, I think. Louise is acting very cold to him. And he's like, he basically just confesses like, listen, I fucked up. My life is a mess, but I'm falling in love with you. I'm going to do whatever it takes to be with you. He's like, I'm going to figure it out. Like, I'm going to actually make an effort to finally fix everything that's wrong with my life and be with you. Okay. And Louise is sort of like, ugh, like she still has feelings for him. So she's like, oh, that's really annoying that you're falling in love with me. And I'm going to take a half day. She's like, my boiler is broken. I'm going to go. She texts Adele that she wants to meet up and talk about her dream, this second door, right? And this is from Adele's POV. I got Louise's text, the second door. I smile as I sip my wine, even though I'm alone and probably look slightly mad to anyone passing. She's seen the second door already. This changes everything. It all has to be in place before she opens it, before she knows. And so when Louise sits down, Adele makes some weird comment about like, oh, I forgot my wallet, because remember her credit card got cut up and stuff. So Louise uses that as an in to start talking about the money and the things that Rob mentioned and like how she doesn't have control over anything. This feels very 1950s. Adele in her POV says that she is acting like the classic victim defending her abuser. Like she knows that this is an act. She's trying to feel very like, ooh. Then Anthony appears. He's like, they're eating outside somewhere and she sees him like on the other side of the street. And Louise recognizes him too and is like, is that? And Adele is like, maybe he's just buying cigarettes at the store, you know? And she says, as useful as he's being, my irritation rises. Following me is unacceptable. So she's been using him, we think, just to like up the like victim story that she has, but maybe there's something more to it. But it doesn't matter. Like Louise seems very concerned, but Adele is like, ugh, whatever. Like it'll be fine because, quote, by tomorrow, the last thing she'll be worrying about is Anthony. And so later that night, Adele is home cooking dinner when David walks in. Perfect timing, everything going to plan, because the phone rings and he picks up the phone and it is the gym calling about how they are extending the like guest membership that Adele has paid for. And David is like, what guest membership? Like, who's the name? Who's the guest? And it is Louise. And that's when he puts it all together. Adele has not ever said that she's been meeting Louise. Louise has never said that she's been meeting Adele. And obviously, like, Louise hasn't told Adele that she's sleeping with David. So he has thought that, like, Adele has been a completely separate thing. And now that he knows that they are friends, he goes completely pale. He stares at me then for a long moment, gripping the phone so tightly I think he might crush it. Whose windpipe would he like to crush most right now? Mine or Louise's? I want to hold him, to tell him everything's going to be okay, that I'm going to make everything better for him. But I can't. I have to be strong. He storms out the front door and I call after him, but he doesn't even pause his stride. I'm exhausted, but try to shake it away. I still have things to do. See if Anthony has left the package where I asked him to, for one thing, and then see what David is doing. My tiredness is going to have to wait. After all, I can sleep when I'm dead. So, questions. How is she going to see what David is doing? How is she always so certain of everything that David is doing? Does she have cameras everywhere? Is what I'm asking. What package is Anthony picking up for her? Is she planning on being dead? Is this a Gone Girl thing? Is she going to fake her death? Anyway, that's the 50% mark. We've still got 40 more pages until we get to part 3. I'm lost. I just feel like it's too obvious for it to be Adele. But Adele is clearly on the page a cuckoo bird. So, all right, I'm going to take a lunch break. See you for the last 50% of this book. Hello, just checking in. I've only read one more chapter since lunch. Hey, it was a flashback. It was a then. It was their last day at the retreat. So Adele and Rob are talking, and she just says something interesting that I want to point out. Okay, she is talking about how much she wants Rob and her to remain friends, and she's like, "You can call me anytime. Like, please come over. Like, David's at university." Blah, blah, blah. She even gives him a kiss on the nose. All right, but she says something. Rob is like teasing her. He's always teasing her about David, and she knows that he doesn't like David because he's boring, controlling her money, suspicious, etc., etc. She says the line, how can she love them both if they can't love each other? And that is like a thing that Louise has been worrying about, is that like she loves Adele. She cannot quit being her friend, but she loves David. She can't quit being in a relationship with him. And like that seems like exactly what Adele wants, is for them to like not be able to leave each other in like a triangle. Just wanted to put that out there. Now I'm going to continue. We are in Louise's POV, and I believe David is coming over to be like, why the fuck are you friends with my wife? We made it to part 3. Everybody, we are 60% of the way through. I'm on page 190. Let me update you. It got really fucking weird. Louise's POV. David comes over. He's shaking with rage. He's yelling in a stronger Scottish accent. She starts screaming at him. She is 100% on Adele's side. He is like, this is very creepy that you didn't tell me. Honestly, I'm on his side. Like, it is very creepy that she didn't tell him that she is best friends with his wife. That's very bizarre. But she's basically like, you are an evil person and blah, blah, blah. And then she says, I'm her only friend. Her only friend. Why is that? What happened to Rob, David? He freezes, and I can almost feel the whole world hold a breath. Why aren't they friends anymore? What did you do? He stares at me. How do you know about Rob? The words are barely more than a whisper. What did you do? I ask again. You're fired, he says eventually. Hand in your notice tomorrow by email. I don't care what reason you give. Make something up. You should be able to manage that easily enough. And I never want to see you again. He cannot believe that she believes that he would hurt Adele. He's like very confused by all of this. He doesn't understand what happened to Rob, blah, blah, blah. Oh, I had a vague conspiracy. What was it? Oh, no, that's too stupid. Anyway, then he goes back home to Adele. So he didn't say upright that like, do you know that Louise is my secretary? Because Adele was basically like, oh, Louise, she's just a person I met. Okay. And Louise kind of corroborated that story when she was saying like, listen, I didn't mean to befriend her. I literally ran into her and knocked her down and bought her a coffee. And that's how we became friends. Like, this has nothing to do with you. So he tells Adele that Louise is just a patient of his. And that's why he was very disturbed that she would become friends with Adele. Like, he has one obsessive patient, Anthony. He's like, maybe I have another one. Like, this is really not okay. And Adele just kind of plays along with that, doesn't correct him and be like, I know that she's your secretary. David is like, maybe we should go away for a few weeks. And Adele says, quote, we can't keep running away. And then she says something weird, like he's kind of freaking out, and she says, he's a man on the edge and he'll do something soon. Divorce me at the very least, regardless of my threats to destroy him. I think he's almost past caring about that, and I've known for some time that my hold over him was waning. I'll act quicker than him. I'm braver that way. I've always been one step ahead. David will never be happy until he's free of the past, and I can never be happy until David's happy. Y'all, I don't know. Then we get Louise. She turns in her resignation letter. Luckily, her boss is like, okay, she said it was a family issue. And he's like, listen, I will, like the other doctor. He was like, okay, why don't you just like, I'm not going to accept your resignation. I'm just going to take it as a leave of absence. And in a month we can talk. So there's a chance our girlie might get her job back at the end of whatever the hell happens here. Okay. Then she rushes to Adele's house. She checks David's schedule. He's busy all day. She doesn't have to go to work anymore. So she immediately runs to talk to her BFF. Adele is high as a fucking kite. I'm assuming the package that Anthony was supposed to secure for her is heroin or something along those lines. She is like drooling, not great, okay? She wasn't expecting Louise, but she's like, actually, no, this is so great. Because she says, I was going to have to fake this behavior at some point, but now I don't. Like, I think she's taking heroin so that she can like know how it affects her body and that she can then fake it later. Fake being drugged, okay? I don't know. Louise is like, girl, what's wrong? Runs to the medicine cabinet to check what Adele has possibly taken. And remember, Adele has said that like these are all for her anxiety. And even David has said that these are for her anxieties, okay? But these are apparently strong antipsychosis drugs. So Adele is trying to hold a normal conversation, and she says that she is surprised at how well she can like pull herself together. Quote, given that this is only my second time practicing this. Okay. And anyway, she uses this moment as an excuse to spew a whole story at Louise. And again, maybe this isn't a story. It could be to the truth. I don't know. But basically, the reason that they moved originally to like have a fresh start was because when they were in Blackheath, David had an affair. Also, the cat, she says that he kicked the cat. And then when the cat was kind of dazed, he stomped on her and killed her. So that's terrifying. And then Louise gives her a burner phone. She's like, listen, you need to not be under this man's thumb. Here's a burner phone. Adele is like, thank you so much. There's also a spare key by like underneath one of these rocks in my garden because he locked me in there. He locked me at home one time. So just so you know, if I'm not answering the phone or I can't get to you, like I might be locked in, and that's how you can get me. She says, thank you so much, Louise. I don't know what I'd do without you. And in her mind, she's like, and it's actually the truth. What does she need Louise for? Okay. And then last but not least, this is where we end part 2. In Louise's POV. It has been a month. All of this has happened in a month, by the way. Adam is finally home. He's got a great tan from the south of France. He's happy as can be. She puts him to bed, okay? She's feeling less lonely. She's feeling less obsessed. Like her life was just empty without Adam, and that's kind of why she spiraled and got so obsessed with these people. Then she has a dream. She does her lucid dreaming again, and this time she's able to walk through the second door. Sorry, the sun. When she gets through the door, she finds herself in Adam's bedroom. Adam is sleeping. He's holding his little Paddington Bear plushie, and the water next to his bed has spilled and got all over Paddington. And so she reaches down to grab Paddington to like dry him off, but she can't grab him. She's like in a dream, but like even in lucid dreaming, you can do things like you can pick things up, you can whatever. For some reason, her hand is just like going through everything. But then she looks closer and she realizes she doesn't have hands. And the hands are the thing that like has unlocked lucid dreaming for her. Remember, that's how you can like tell that you're dreaming, is that your hands are wrong. And so she's just like very freaked out. She's like, how am I supposed to get out of the dream if I can't see my hands? And then she wakes up in her bed. She like frightens herself out of sleep. It's 3 a.m. She decides to like go get a glass of water, glass of wine, who the hell cares? And as she's going back into bed, she peeks into Adam's bedroom and she notices, like, yes, he's sleeping, but also there's water spilled all over Paddington. And she's like, is this deja vu? Was I sleepwalking? What's going on? I don't know, man. Y'all, let's keep going. If this is some kind of Inception thing and it's been a dream the whole time, this is just getting annoying. I want Rob to be David. I don't know, guys. Okay. Adele. She is talking to David about the friendship. She is still very much holding on to the story of, I didn't know who she was, blah, blah, blah. I thought she was just a patient. He she can tell that he doesn't believe her, but he can't quite put a finger on why. She says, my behavior has confused him. This isn't my form. In Blackheath, I was far more direct in my approach, but Maryanne was nothing but a potential threat to my marriage. Louise is the great white hope of our happiness. Louise is wonderful. And then she says something that's been underlined almost 1,000 times according to my ebook, and it says, the past is as ephemeral as the future. It's all perspective and smoke and mirrors. You can't pin it down, can you? Let's say two people experience exactly the same thing. Ask them to recount the event later, and though their versions might be similar, there will always be differences. The truth is different to different people. Poor David, though, he's consumed by the past. That one night has led to the drinking, the worry, the inability to let himself love me, the guilt. And she's essentially using Louise to push him to admitting the truth. Whatever happened, he feels like he has to stay with Adele because if he leaves her, his mysterious secret will come out. But at what point can Adele push him to that he decides that he would rather have the world know his secret than to stay with this crazy woman? So she's trying to get Louise to make him admit things. And apparently this will, quote, set us both free. So she sends Louise a few more texts to be like, hello. Hey girl, I'm so glad you're on my team. And she calls her my pretty little puppet on a string. And Louise tells her about the whole weird sleepwalking thing. Adele is ecstatic. She's like, ooh, this girl is moving so fast. Towards what? We don't know. A little bit later, Louise is spending the day with Adam. She feels great. She says, quote, my real life feels good. And she remembers life is worth living. She even has an ice cream, I'm pretty sure. She's no longer dieting, so good for her. But she's got a friend to take care of. Okay, so she decides to sneak into the clinic to try and see if David has any files or anything about Adele, because if he's bringing home medicine, he has to have some kind of record, right? And she's the secretary. She still has the keys. She knows the code, etc. So she goes in, nothing on the computers, nothing in the drawers except for one locked drawer, which is filled with 2 big old bottles of brandy and a folder. And in the folder, she finds another folder titled Adele Rutherford Campbell Martin. David's last name is Martin, all right? Apparently the record keeping started 6 years ago, but it references things from much later, okay? And I will give you a list of what is in the file. And some of this, by the way, it's written in a really non-professional way. This isn't a normal medical history. This is clearly just rambling. Sometimes he seems kind of drunk when he's writing it. It's chicken scratch and it doesn't really make sense. Okay, so that being said, starting 6 years ago, he starts writing that it says, breakdown 3 months after leaving the rehab center, during which time she had an abortion. Paranoia, jealousy, she knows things she shouldn't. Is she watching me? Which is a question I had, right? There was a weird issue with the florist, which was her other job, her only job she's ever had, which Louise knows about, but apparently this was friendship ending, job ending, very, very bad. Very weird, whatever happened at the florist, okay? And Louise is very annoyed at how vague these notes are, okay? She had a psychotic break / psychopathic tendencies. He writes that Maryanne is not pressing charges and we agreed to move again. And Louise knows that Maryanne is the name of the girl that David cheated with in Blackheath, okay? And What does she have to press charges about? And how many times have they moved? He also writes that there was rage, out of the blue rage, and she killed the cat. So did she kill the cat? And then finally it says, Louise, what do we do about her? Now, I will say I'm almost 100% certain some of these, like particularly the killed the cat and Maryanne not pressing charges, it doesn't specify who. He didn't say she killed the cat. Very conveniently, there are no pronouns in that sentence. So is he writing about himself? I'm trying to keep an open mind, guys. Maybe he killed the cat. Maybe this is a record of him. No, it's not. Ugh, I don't know, man. So anyway, she's not feeling great about this. Okay, we have exactly 100 more pages. And Adele is hoping that if she can't push David to confess, she hopes that Louise will do the digging, which she is currently doing. So Louise is doing everything that Adele wants her to without even knowing it. So does anyone have any guesses? Please help me. The way that I'm still no closer to the truth. Okay, we had a then flashback. Basically, when she gets out of therapy, David seems nice. I don't know, man. David seems totally normal and nice. Do I think a 22-year-old should be engaged to a 17-year-old? I mean, no, but he seems like a totally normal dude, unfortunately. Okay, Louise, what's up with her? She finally talks to Sophie, who she has been avoiding, her BFF, because Sophie doesn't get it. She doesn't get this whole David and Adele thing. And Sophie, Louise finally explains everything that's going on. And Sophie is sort of like, girl, this all sounds crazy. Have you thought that maybe, because she doesn't have any physical proof, right? We've seen Adele with a bruise. And other than that, that's it. From David's side, from Adele's side, it's all he said, she said. And Sophie is sort of like, Louise, if she had a entire cabinet full of antipsychotic drugs, is there not a possibility that she could be psychotic? Why are you assuming that those are mistaken drugs? What if she actually needs those? And Louise is like, no, you don't get it. She's not crazy, okay? Sophie leaves. David arrives. He saw her on the CCTV at the office, knows that she snooped. He's like, hello, can I have my office keys back? For your safety, leave us the fuck alone. I'm warning you, okay? And he's like, I have one more question before I go. You said that you ran into Adele and that's how you became friends. Can you tell me when and where? And Louise was like, I don't know. And he's like, no, when and where? And so she's like, she was walking. She said that she walked you to work and she was walking home and she walked by my school and we collided. And David's like, yeah, that tracks. Yet Adele has never walked me to work. Who you gonna believe? Okay, so, and then he just kind of walks away. He's like, all right, that's enough of that. And then Louise, without really falling asleep, she's just kind of sitting on the couch. She's got a bottle of wine. She has an out-of-body experience, really quickly. She closes her eyes, sees the second door glowing, and she walks through it, and she can just she's just floating above herself. Okay. And then she wakes up and she's like, ooh. Weird. Adele is watching this all go down. She says that Louise is her little terrier and has gripped the bone that she handed to her and won't let it go. So she's very excited that her little police dog is sniffing around. She says that the past needs a proper burial. The body, too. Whatever that means. David comes in and he's like, I want a divorce. Adele is like, that's great, honey. Dinner will be on the table in 10 minutes. She doesn't care about anything that David says because now the whole plan revolves around Louise. And she's like, I'm so excited to see Louise tomorrow, even though they've never made plans to meet up. She just seems to know exactly what Louise will do. Because what does she do? Louise shows up at Adele's house the next day. Because she's like, her husband, David, will be at work. I'm going to go catch her before she goes to the gym. She hasn't been answering my texts. I need to go check on her. Adele doesn't come to the door, so Louise starts peeping through the windows and sees Adele passed out in a chair. And she's knocking on the windows, no movement from Adele. So she thinks, oh my God, has she OD'd? So she knows where the extra key is. She runs into the house and has to shake Adele up until finally she gasps as if she were drowning and she wakes up. Okay. Louise tells Adele about the file that she found and Adele is like, yeah, I bet you anything that that's just insurance. David wrote that so that if I ever come forward and voice my suspicions about Rob, he can show the world that I'm crazy. And Louise is like, okay, let's dive into that. What are your suspicions about Rob? Basically, according to Adele, Rob came to stay after they got out of rehab. When David came to stay for the weekend as well, Adele went to bed early. Rob and David stayed up later to like have man time. Rob was never seen since. He left. He didn't take his drugs, which Adele finds pretty suspicious. And like he's never contacted her again. And she says that if Rob is alive, he would have never abandoned me like that. Then her and David get married. Just like a month or so later, she finds out that she's pregnant, and David made her get an abortion because he, quote, couldn't be sure the baby was his. Okay. And she's telling all this to Louise, hoping that she reads between the lines, because if you tell someone the truth, it's not as powerful as if they discover it themselves, you know? This is truly Inception shit, okay? But anyway, Louise goes home, reads Rob's last entry, or at least the last entry in the notebook, because remember, the last few pages are ripped out. And it basically just confirms exactly what Adele's story was, right? Like he went home, hated living with his sister, came to stay with Adele, and he's not excited to see David because David is boring. Okay. So then Louise starts Googling. She Googles Rob, finds nothing. She Googles his sister's name, and like she knows that she lives in Edinburgh, so finds her. She's an artist. She has a public phone number, calls her. That sister also confirms the story. She's like, yeah, Rob came home, wasn't happy with us, left, never came back. And like the sister doesn't care. I think the sister's also kind of a junkie, but she's basically just like, I haven't seen him, he could be dead, who knows, you know? Then she Googles Adele's parents and the fire, and pretty much everything tracks, except for she finds a few articles saying there is suspicion of arson. And she decides that nobody's going to believe her, especially about Rob, if she just like goes to the police, because she will look like just like a jealous lover, you know? So she decides to send an anonymous letter to the detective who is the one who thinks it was arson, and his name is Angus Wignall. We flash to Adele. Adele knows that Louise sent a letter. I don't know how she knows all this stuff. Like, does she have surveillance? Does she travel in her dreams? If that's the... I'm getting angry. I've read a few other thrillers that like add in a slightly supernatural thing with... I don't want her to be just like a magical sleepwalker. That's so boring. Anyway, Adele knows. How does Adele know? We don't know. But everything is going to plan. But even though everything is going to plan, there's a part of her that is just like Louise's friend. And she's like, damn, I'm kind of pissed that Louise is keeping secrets from me, even though like I want her to keep secrets from me, right? She says, but it doesn't matter. My feelings don't really matter anymore. Just like maintaining my figure and fitness doesn't matter anymore. After all, what's the point? I'm going to be dead soon. Hello. Okay, we're about to finish this story, okay? I know that supernatural isn't the correct word, but when I said I didn't want any of that stuff to be part of the mystery, it includes, what's it called? Astral projection, whatever. That's what it is. They learned how to lucid dream, and then they go through the second door, and then they can like project, which Louise finds out. So yeah, Louise gets home. She realizes kind of what she can do. And she, instead of just like hovering above herself, she decides to go like check on her neighbor. And she notices that her neighbor is home and like watching Friends on TV and drinking a Coke. She's thinking about like, ooh, I can use this to spy on Adele and David, when she suddenly wakes up because Adam, her son, is like shaking her like crazy. And apparently he's been trying to wake her up for a really long time and she hasn't. And then she just goes like, and wakes up. She doesn't realize it in the moment, but a little bit later, she suddenly realizes that's exactly what happened when she woke Adele up, when she was like passed out on the couch and she had to break into her house and see if she OD'd. So she suddenly realizes like Adele lied to her. She has been through the second door as well. And so she can like project her body elsewhere. But she also gets a call from Adele, basically just being like, hello, drop it. I shouldn't have told you all those things about Rob. Bye. or whatever. And so everything is just really weird. She starts to feel weird about Adele. So she runs to her neighbor's house, asks if she can like see her living room. I don't even know. Goes into her living room and confirms like, yes, her friend is watching Friends on TV. Her friend is drinking a Coke in the living room. What she saw in her dream was true. So she really can just like travel outside of her body. Okay? So now she's thinking, okay, Adele is maybe crazy. Maybe the things that Sophie was saying sound a little bit more true now, right? So she decides to go to Blackheath. She's going to go talk to Maryanne, the other woman from before. She has nothing to say. When she's like, hi, could I talk to you about David and Adele Martin? She immediately is like, no. But the way that Louise looks at her, it's kind of like woman to woman, victim to victim kind of look. And so Maryanne is like, wait for me after work. All right. Here's the whole story. Basically, they moved there. David started coming into the cafe that Maryanne owns. She's like a much older woman also. He just came like every morning, sat there looking sad. And, you know, as like a friendly cafe owner, she just kind of started asking, you know, oh, how are you? Are you new to the area? They end up talking like every single day. He treats it almost as therapy, and he just talks about how unhappy he is. And it starts to get more and more personal. He ends up sometimes coming in even before lunch or even before they open so that they can like make breakfast together. And he starts to talk about how he's really trapped in this marriage and he has a secret. He says that he wants to face the wrong that he did. Like he wants the secret to be out, but quote, he's worried that if he went to prison, there would be no one there to stop her from hurting someone else. Okay. Adele also has started showing up. Like when David's not there, Adele will show up at the cafe and just like look around and be weird until one day she shows up at Maryanne's door at her house and just starts screaming at her to like stay away from her husband. Okay. David comes in one more time. They chat. He doesn't seem to like have known. He didn't know that Adele did this. He feels really bad about it, but he doesn't know anything. But the next night, Adele shows up at the house again and kills Maryanne's cat, Charlie. Apparently Charlie is old and very friendly and will go to anyone who has treats. And so Maryanne hears Charlie yowl outside. She looks out her window. Adele is holding him and she says something like, you deserve this, drops the cat and just stomps on its head. She says, I warned you. And apparently Maryanne has never seen that level of rage. Obviously goes to David to tell him what happened. And she says that David looks disgusted, but not shocked. Okay. She decides not to go to the police because she's just like, what the hell? Right? Like, who's going to believe me? Like, this is really bizarre. David also like promises to donate money to like a cat sanctuary. I don't know. Ew, David. She's just like, I didn't want to be anywhere near these people anymore. David feels really guilty. He just comes in one more time to be like, we're moving. Goodbye. Like, you will not hear from us anymore. Okay. And she basically just says, get away from them fast. Then she immediately calls David. She sets up a meeting. She calls David's new secretary and is like, we got to talk. Louise is basically like, listen, David, I think I believe you. I think I was tricked. So tell me the story. Let's get all of this down. Okay. So he really loved her. Like their love was pure and good and wonderful. And she's so beautiful and blah, 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 blah. Right. The night of the fire, he ran in to save her, but he couldn't wake her up. Funny enough, was she doing her little like sleepy projection stuff? I think so. In terms of Rob coming over and killing Rob, all of that was true. And he didn't die the night that he supposedly disappeared. He died 10 days later. And also David was like, Rob is a really weird, creepy dude. Like he didn't get why Adele liked him. He was just like shy and awkward and weird. Okay. But apparently like after that night, he still stayed at the place. And at this point, like David can only come visit on the weekends because he's a university student. So he went back to university when he gets a call from a panicked Adele. Apparently, Rob overdosed. She said that she was sleeping. And when she woke up, Rob was dead. And they were like doing drugs, but they only ever smoked weed. So I don't think he could die from that. Anyway, did she kill him while she was doing her little projection stuff? Maybe. She freaked out and she was like, if there's a dead body on my estate, they're gonna assume I killed him. I panicked and I pushed him down the well. So Rob's body is at the bottom of the well. There's like a dry well on the estate. And David is like, okay, you could just tell the police what happened. Like, we have records of you being in therapy. Like you panicked and we can talk our way out of this. But she's like, no, nobody knew that Rob was here. Nobody's going to be looking for him. We just don't need to tell anybody. Okay. And so that became David's little secret. Like he decided to keep that secret with Adele. And he was like, and honestly, like at first I wrote it off as this was just a crazy accident and blah, blah, blah. But we got married like a few weeks later. She was really happy. Like she was not grieving. She was glowing, happy as can be. Like afterwards, she wasn't acting like someone whose friend had just died. Sorry, my handwriting's so bad. She also apparently was the one who wanted an abortion. She wanted this alien thing out of her. And then David gave her control of the money back. He signed the estate back to her, but she has a crazy spending problem apparently. Allegedly. So he signed the money back to him. She agreed. She was like, I have a problem. If we ever want a family, like they were going to run out of her like massive fortune, how much she was spending. Right. So he got the money back. And this whole time he's still at uni finishing like medical school. So he's been very distracted and he's just like, he's sort of like, I'm going to focus on this crazy stuff after I graduate. Like this is too much. One thing at a time. So for about 3 to 4 years, they pretended it was okay. And then David asked to separate. He was like, I think that our love died the day that Rob died. And, I would like to leave. And Adele is basically like, yeah, sure, go ahead. I would love to tell the police about you killing Rob. And he's like, what? Like, I kept your secret for you, but I didn't kill him. She's like, are you sure about that? Adele said that the police would think it was jealousy and they'd already been suspicious of me about the fire at her parents' house. So they definitely listened to her. Again, like she said in the beginning of this book, like beauty is power. Everyone always believes like the beautiful one, right? And Louise is like, oh, fuck. I just sent a letter to that police officer being like, I believe that he killed Rob. So she just like doubled down, helping Adele's story, right? But that wasn't the end of it. Adele had a trump card. What could she possibly have? My watch, he says simply. When I was burned, I couldn't wear it, and I gave it to Adele to wear kind of as a keepsake. And she had mentioned this at therapy, like how much she loved having David's watch near her. He said, she liked having it and I liked her wearing it, but I didn't realize it would bind us together in this hell forever. When she put Rob in the well, my watch slipped off her wrist and got tangled in his clothes. My watch is in the well with the body. Okay, I mean, first of all, his watch definitely didn't slip off. She definitely threw it in there. I feel like in that amount of time, I would have found a way to go down there and get the watch, but that's just me. Anyway, but now he's decided to go confess. He's like, you know what? If you believe me and like maybe you can back me up on this and stuff like that, I'm going to go get ahead of this. I'm going to go confess. He leaves. He's like, I've got to tie up a couple things at work and then I'm going to go. And Louise realizes that she didn't tell him about the dreaming. So all of that like projection and stuff, he doesn't know about it. He did mention like, oh yeah, she was kind of a weird girl. Like I knew she was crazy even before we got married because she would always talk about her dreams. And he kind of jokingly says like, how do you feel about prison visits? Because he's like, I do really love you. Sorry that we can't start a relationship because I'm probably going to jail, right? And when he leaves, he's like, by the way, like, please just promise me you won't go see Adele. Like you won't go to the house. And she's like, yeah, of course. But she didn't promise that she wouldn't dream walk, I assume. She says, I didn't promise I wouldn't speak to her. So I assume she's gonna try and like confront her in dreamland. I'm gonna finish this right now. I might turn on the camera randomly. We have 25 pages left. I'm gonna film and just like talk it, okay? What do I think? I just don't want it to be super Gone Girl where she like fakes her death or she does die and he gets sent to jail. Who could it be? Damn, I don't know. Gosh darn it. All right, here we go. Last 25 pages. Adele is like, they say if you love someone, set them free. And I'm finally doing just that. There are easier ways to have done it than the route I've chosen, but you can't fake trust or belief or the realization of the truth. He needed to see those clear in Louise's eyes. The shock of having misjudged the entire situation, his innocence, those were the things I couldn't give him. Apparently, Adele explains the rules of how you can go different places. You can only use the second door to go to places you know. If you haven't been there to see it, you can't visualize the details. So that's why, like, when she went to go pick up Louise the very first time they hung out, she like demanded a tour of the apartment. Okay. Wait, I can't tell if she is actually surprised. I can't tell when Adele is acting or not, but she seems surprised that he's going to the police to confess. Like, she didn't actually want that. She says that she just wanted Louise to choose her. Like, to hate David and choose her. And Louise is like, you could do the right thing. You could prove you love him. Let all this shit be over with. At least maybe that way he won't hate you. She's basically like, you could confess? That would be best, okay? Later that night, it seems like Adele is preparing to stage a suicide. Well, or like commit suicide and blame it on David. Anyway, she's doing her weird little thing. I don't even care about her anymore. Louise talks to David on the phone. He is waiting for Wignall to show up at the hotel where he's going to confess. And Louise is like, listen, I called her and I couldn't get her to admit it, but she sounded really guilty. And like, I'm really sorry about this. And David's like, honestly, she doesn't know how to tell the truth. So good try. And he's basically just like, please be careful. Like, she's on your tail, basically. And he's kind of like, could you go like stay at a neighbor's house or something? Like, I want you to be safe. And she's like, yeah, sure. But obviously she's not gonna, right? She decides to pour herself a glass of gin when her phone pings. She gets a text and she's like, oh, that's weird. Like, David said he was just walking into the interview and Adam is at Dad's house, but it's not David, it's Adele.
Hello.
She has this long ass text. Let's see. She's like, you're right. I can't live without David. I can't be locked up. I don't want to be in a place with crazy people. Pretty sure she says, I'm going to take the easy way out, which Louise immediately is like, oh, she's going to kill herself. Okay. She tries to call her back. No answer, obviously. She takes a cab to Adele's house. She smells smoke. She decides she's going to do her little like mind walking. She finds Adele in the bedroom and she's not dead, but like she seems to have she's also projecting, like she's not in her body. So she doesn't want to die. She doesn't want to feel herself die, right? Oh no. So she realizes that she can't pick anything up. Like, in this state, she can't like grab, remember how she like couldn't grab the bear, like the Paddington bear, whatever. So she's like, how the hell do I get Adele out, right? Oh no, this is so... because the house is on fire, by the way. She starts thinking about what it would feel like to be inside that skin. I imagine being Adele, slipping into that body and controlling it. And then, just as I feel a terrible jolt of shock somewhere in the core of me, a feeling that something is very, very wrong, I'm in her body. 5 pages left. We have after. We have then, later, now, and after. Jesus. Okay, this is after we're talking with the detectives. Apparently the fire in the house started with the fuse box, and apparently the fire in her parents' house also started with the fuse box. So the inspector is sort of like, we're considering that a little bit of an admission of guilt, right? That she started both fires. He's apparently looking pale and gaunt, the way that most people look in shock, but he's also much lighter in spirit. Of course he is. Ding dong, the witch is dead. This is David, of course. So yeah, they found her confession letter. She admits to everything. She overdosed with heroin. She got it from Anthony. And whoever our narrator is says, I'm barely listening. All I can think about is how David is holding my hand, squeezing it tight. I haven't felt that in such a long time. He ends up turning and smiling really big at our narrator, and the narrator feels like her face will burst. There's no need for us to hide our feelings from the policeman, the affair, the love. That was all in the letter. I should know. I wrote it. I push the unfamiliar hair out of my face as we leave the police station. Louise's body, my body, still feels strange. Oh, Louise, how perfect she was, how wonderfully she performed. My plans went perfectly. Yep, she set her up. And when she jumped into Adele's body, the heroin in Adele's system also hindered her. So she couldn't get out of, like, Louise couldn't handle heroin. And so she couldn't crawl her way out of the burning home. Goodbye, Adele. Hello, Louise. If you love someone, set them free. What a load of bullocks. Then we go back to then. Did I not fucking call this? Did I not fucking call this? I'm a genius. I love this. This is what I read thrillers for. The final chapter. Never doubt yourself, babes, okay? Have some self-confidence. The final chapter is in Rob's POV. We stand by the graveside hand in hand. We're laying the past to rest by being here, saying our farewells. My poor sweet Adele, my tragic sleeping beauty, so caring and kind and yet so simple. I did love her in my own way. I really did. He fell in love with David at first sight. Oh, okay, so I'm not right, but I'm not wrong. Okay. Yeah, he falls in love with David. It was love at first sight. Adele and all of her soft kindness paled in comparison. What I felt for her was simply dust on the wind. David was strong, clever, calm. I understood why Adele loved him. She was too damaged for someone as brilliant as David. He needed me. So that's why he was weird all weekend, is like he got a crush. All right. That's why he could barely speak. I knew then I had to have him. And that's when it all came to me. My simple and terrifying plan. Basically, he was like, Adele, wouldn't it be crazy if we tried to switch bodies? Like, have you ever tried that before? And so they did it. And he was high. Like, he's a heroin addict, so he's used to higher levels of heroin being in his body. But she didn't. So within seconds, she overdosed. And goodbye, Rob. Hello, Adele. Apparently, he realizes he fucked up because he wasn't sad enough about Rob, quote unquote, Rob being dead. Because apparently that's the first red flag for David. That's when he started to doubt us. And then when he got pregnant, he was like, holy shit, I don't like this. Like, he did not enjoy being in a female body. So that's why he got an abortion. And he didn't really know enough about Adele and her personality to fully fake it. So that's why he just started acting really irrational, is so he could have a reason for not being the perfect Adele anymore. But apparently it was easier with Louise because they learned the same things. Like, he was there for every date. So he learned and picked up all of Louise's quirks. And David feels free of the past. So maybe I'll give him a baby this time. Make us a proper family. Where do you want to go on our honeymoon, he asks. Pick anywhere you want. The only obstacle is that Ian and Adam, her son, they know Louise. And she doesn't know them. She needs to fake it and trick them. Also, it was easy to end the friendship with Sophie, basically. Adam's departure from my life will need to be somewhat more dramatic. But that shouldn't be too difficult to arrange. Children are notoriously accident-prone. And grief can bring people closer together, can't it? I love you, Louise Martin, Dave says as he starts the engine. I love you too, David Martin, I say. More than you'll ever know. Damn it. I don't love books that don't feel like they are semi-supernatural and then the twist is there's a supernatural twist. I don't know why I don't like that. I've had that with a couple other books. I'm not going to name them or spoil them, but if you know, you know. I mean, it was fun because I had absolutely no idea what was going on. But once you figured out the projection thing, it was kind of obvious. I didn't think Rob would completely be involved. Rob and the stolen identity, truly just a lucky guess. I'm gonna be real. I had no evidence to back up my story. Editing Carrie here. I'm just going over my footage briefly. And you know what? How is it possible David happened to meet Louise in a bar and Louise happens to have night terrors and the ability to lucid dream? Could that lucid dreaming thing have worked on anyone? What are the odds that they found someone who needed help with their sleep and could do lucid dreaming? Okay, signing off. Bye. Okay, you know what? I actually want to watch it now to see how they do that, because how would you show that on film? Also, David is played by the actor who's going to be the romantic lead in The Love Hypothesis, and I just really am so interested. But okay, Rob. So, did you figure it out? Let me know. Were you convinced by my arguments? Did you have a different idea than me? Let me know. That's not my favorite take. I love when a thriller just like sticks to IRL things, I guess. Glad that I didn't see it coming, but not my favorite way for a thriller to end. Let me know what I need to read next, okay? Thank you so much for joining me once again, our little sleuth club. And that was Behind Her Eyes. And once again, it's always the man. I will see you guys next time, okay? Bye. What if Adele isn't Adele? What if Rob is David? I just really want somebody to assume somebody else's identity. Can you tell? This is gonna be another, like, she's trying to find a replacement, but that's not. Anyway, okay. I'm getting ahead of myself.